In this video, I'm going to tell you my thoughts, because I haven't prepared any notes, my thoughts about, or what I learned from reading Matthew chapter 8. I'm going to compare what I learned before to what I learned recently connected to this chapter, right? So we will talk about faith, how to properly apply that in our lives, that we would actually get what we are asking for, and why we are not getting what we're asking for. So we'll talk about faith, and we'll also talk about the origin of demons, because in the last chapter, in the last part of this chapter, this is the first time in the four Gospels where we read about the men being possessed by devils or demons. So where did these devils or demons come from, really? I'm gonna compare what I know about where they came from before to what I know now. That something new to me. So to read the entire chapter of Matthew chapter 8, you can go to this link that I will include at the description below on Bible Hub. So you will also have an option to read it in Greek, where it was originally written. Let's read Matthew chapter 8. Matthew chapter 8. Jesus heals a leper, a centurion's faith. Jesus heals Peter's mother-in-law, the cost of discipleship. Jesus calms the winds and the sea, healing of devil-possessed men. When he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. And behold, there came a leper, and worshipped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said unto him, See thou tell no man, but go thy way, shew thyself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded, for a testimony unto them. A centurion's faith. From 5 to 13. Verses 5 to 13. And when Jesus was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion, beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Jesus saith unto him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled, and said to them that followed, Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And I say unto you, that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said unto the centurion, Go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the selfsame hour. 14 to 21 is Jesus heals Peter's mother-in-law. When Jesus was come into Peter's house, he saw his wife's mother laid and sick of a fever. And he touched her hand, and the fever left her. And she arose and ministered unto them. When the even was come, they brought unto him many that were possessed with devils, and cast out the spirits with his word, and healed all that were sick, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Himself took our infirmities, and bare our sickness. 18 to 27, the cost of discipleship. Now when Jesus saw great multitudes about him, he gave commandments to depart unto the other side. And a certain scribe came and said unto him, Master, I will follow thee whithersoever thou goest. And Jesus said unto him, The foxes have toilets, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. And another of his disciples said unto him, Lord, suffer me first to go and bury my father. But Jesus said unto him, Follow me, and let the dead bury their dead. 23 to 27, Jesus calming the winds and the sea. And when he was entered into a ship, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and woke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he said unto them, Why are you fearful, O ye of little faith? And he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the man marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Healing of devil-possessed men, 28 up to 34. And when he was come to the other side, into the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by the way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? And there was a good way off from them, an herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine. And behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea, and perished in the waters. And they that kept them fled, and went their ways into the city, and told everything, and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coast. If you notice, on chapter 10, from verses 1 up to 27, Jesus was healing everybody that needs healing. He healed a leper, the centurion's servant who was sick, Peter's mother-in-law, and faith in following his example, and him calming the winds and the sea, telling his disciples, Why are you fearful, O ye of little faith? It all talks about faith. And what faith meant for me growing up was how it was defined in the Book of Mormon. Like it was compared with a mustard seed, that with that amount of faith, it will have a chance to grow into a huge tree. And I always believed then that faith always corresponds with Jesus Christ, always having faith in Jesus Christ. But later on, as I learned from other perspectives, other books, starting from the Law of Attraction, from the book The Secret, and then book after book after book, The Untethered Soul, especially, by Michael Singer, learning about Kabbalah, and finally, this year, about Hermeticism, I could compare faith to the law of attraction. That is not just about belief or believing in Jesus Christ. It is believing into something so much that you would think, oh, I also learned from Joe Dispenza, by the way. Yes, this one. You are the placebo. I learned from Joe Dispenza as well, with becoming supernatural, and you are the placebo. Like with so much faith, so much belief in yourself or in the law, anything is possible. And before learning about Joe Dispenza, I learned about Louise Hay first. Heal your body, and I also read You Can Heal Your Life. And they're all connected to, faith and the law of attraction, they're connected. It's not just about believing what others fail to do when they have faith, but I failed to do when I had faith. I still had that fear in my heart, but Jesus taught us in just one phrase, one sentence, when he told the disciples, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? That is always the opposite. If you have fear, you don't have enough faith. I didn't understand how to do that before until learning from other books. This faith is, even if it hasn't happened yet, you believe in it so much that you would treat it like it already happened. Like, I'll give an example. Nowadays, I've been really obsessed with this country called Spain. It's just because everything that's happening here somehow frustrates me. And I'm not sure if I still want to be American and get the citizenship. And that led me to learning about Spain, that Filipinos can just stay there as a resident for 2 years and they could apply for citizenship compared to other citizens of other countries where they'd have to stay for 10 years before they become Spanish citizens. Here in America, I could just stay for 5 years and then I'd be a citizen. And I'm nearing my 3rd year mark, so I only have about 2 years actually. And since I can't go anywhere else, given my circumstances, I was yearning for that feeling of being able to someday visiting Spain and maybe somehow retiring there, or the Philippines, right, where I came from. So I was positioning myself not in abundance, but in the lack. And when you position yourself in the lack, you have that hope in your heart. And when you thought that you're having faith because of that hope, but you're actually not, because you're still in the position of the lack. If you have faith enough, you wouldn't be in the lack, but in abundance. So how are you going to do that? So I'm still here in the States. And for example, if I want to go there, you could ask yourself this too. How is my life going to be if I live in this country? For me, if I live in Spain, what would my day look like? What would my nights look like? How would I feel after imagining that? I imagined that, and I felt peace. And what I'm lacking now, I realize, is peace, because I was in the lack. So by faith, if I have faith, I would still continue to live my life here day by day and experience my life in a way that I would experience this in this country that I'm looking forward to visiting. And I did that before, actually, when I was in the Philippines and I was processing my papers to come here. I was treating my life day by day as if I was here. I was imagining myself living my American dream. And it eventually happened. Sometimes I find myself in the lack because, life experiences, our experiences in life is like a pendulum. What I learned from the Kybalion, Hermeticism, where it's always moving. There's always rhythm, right? That's another principle of Hermeticism. And the key is you should always stay in the middle. If some event happened and it affected you so much, the force may move so far to the right, and the effect would be so far to the left, and the effect would be so far to the right. And it will swing like that, the cause and effect. But if you continue to entertain that effect, like for example, when driving in Garden State, this usually happens. Someone cuts me off, or they wouldn't want me to go to the next exit because they want to cut me off. This would steer my emotions. It's normal for people. And before, it would affect me so much that sometimes race could happen. And that's really dangerous. But eventually, I learned to just not entertain that at all. Not entertain that feeling. And when this happens, what happens to the pendulum is when you struck it by force because of the effect on you, the reaction that happened because of that certain event, it would swing back and forth so hard. And if you keep it that way, it would result into something bad. Knock on wood. But if you don't entertain that, you will eventually go back to the middle. The force won't be that strong. So that's it about the pendulum. I now can't remember why I mentioned that. I was talking about faith. That's why I need some notes whenever I speak. I was talking about the lack. If I always entertain that effect, that reaction to the lack, to that feeling of lacking, the pendulum would always swing that way. It's always to the extremes, extreme to the left, extreme to the right. But if I don't entertain that and just stay in the middle, in the way Jesus was, he was always centered in the middle, I will have the capacity to not be in the lack, but in the position of abundance. Since the negativity was removed, the abundance comes back. Well, it never leaves actually. All the positive emotions that we have, that is what we have, that is from the light. We all have light according to the Kabbalah. And from what I learned from inner influencing, our neutral, we were born here, our neutral, our base, like with cars, right? There are base and you upgrade. We all have this light, and it's our guiding light, our connection from above, from the divine. Because of our experiences in this life, we tend to absorb more and more negativities, like from our traumas, and we adopt from our environment, from also from the people who were teaching us. So we absorb everything. Kids absorb everything while they were growing up until we became adults, and we have so much traumas that need healing. So when that was healed, finally, when we were healed, the negativity gone, and what will stay is the positivity, our connection with the divine, our abundance. That's everything from the divine. That's what I learned from inner influencing. And in inner influencing, what we are trying to heal from, to remove from the subconscious, are all the negativities, all the effects of trauma, or past traumas. So now you're at the center because you're healed. You have the capacity to have more abundance. And now you are allowing yourself to fully experience faith. Faith wherein you are not in the lack, but you are in abundance because you are centered. And that's not, I didn't know about this before, but eventually I did, because thankfully, I'm thankful from, ano bang English doon? I'm thankful for all the authors of these books available in our lives right now, and available in my bookshelf, in the bookstores, because they're all just there for us to learn more about how to apply things in life and how to apply faith in life the way Jesus taught them. It's not really about what you do, really. My faith before was all about what I'm going to do to earn the merit and be with my Father in heaven. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be to become like Jesus himself, to follow him, and we will experience real faith. That is becoming his true disciple. And if we become his true disciple, it's not going to be just about doing. It's going to be about being like him. So if we are being like him, everything that comes out, every action that we do, always reflects where it came from. And that is centered faith, divine connection through following Jesus Christ. So that's what I learned about faith, how to do that properly. Another thing that we'll talk about is the last part of this chapter, healing of devil-possessed men, from verses 28 until 34 in Matthew chapter 8. Here's the thing, that the devils, or the demons, others call this demons, this is what they told Jesus. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? What do they mean by before the time? It wasn't really explained in this chapter. It went on narrating what happened to them, where they saw the swine and Jesus just told them to go. and they went to the swine. I mean, the herd of swine. Now the question is, where do these demons came from, and why did they tell Jesus Christ that he's like judging them before their time? It's not yet their time to be judged. Actually, if you try to find that in our canon of scriptures, in the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, you wouldn't find anything in the New Testament, because some part of the scriptures were not compiled in this canon. It was compiled in some scriptures, like with the Ethiopian Bible. Some of the scriptures recorded by the past prophets or the authors of these books, not literally, not totally the prophets themselves, but the authors of those who shared the stories about these prophets, they're not all in our canon, because they said, this is during the time of, what's his name? Kalimutan ko tuloy. Constantine. Boom. Ba yan? Nakalimutan ko pangalan, Constantine. So anyway, during the time of Constantine, the people who compiled the scriptures didn't think that some of those scriptures should be scriptures. So they've taken it out and not included in the Bible that we now know as Christians. But others have them, like the Ethiopian Bible. There's also have the Apocrypha. That's an example that didn't make a scripture that didn't make in our canon. And the scriptures from the Nag Hammadi scriptures, like the Book of Thomas, the Book of Judas, and others. James. So we have James, I think, in the New Testament. The other books of James. And of course, the one that we're going to talk about is the Book of Enoch. This is included in the Ethiopian Bible, but we don't have this in our canon of scriptures, and you will know why. In the Book of Enoch, we will know where the demons came from, because he mentioned them here. If we remember, the only part that was mentioned in the Old Testament or in the Torah, in the Jewish Bible, about Enoch was in Genesis, where it was told that just he was real righteous, his whole city was righteous, and he went with God. That's it. But little did we know when I read this, it told the full story of where the demons came from. And that's what I'm going to tell you right now. It's going to be really long to read the full story to you, because it consists of a lot of pages. So I think I'm going to read this in another video. My promises are piling up. I think I need to watch my previous videos to write down everything that I'm promising you guys. Thank you for watching. So I'm going to read this next time. What I'm going to tell you is just a summary of that. On the first book of the Book of Enoch was about the Watchers, or the angels. I paused because I remembered, I'm not sure really. I learned this before going on a mission, a full-time mission, as a sister missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, when I was still Mormon, of course. I learned about some teachings in Mormonism that's not really taught much. I don't know why, but I'm sure that it's from the Mormon doctrine. What happened after Adam and Eve was placed on earth? They born children, and the next thing that we knew was about everything in the world was defiled. People became so wicked. They became so wicked that God flooded the earth, and the only surviving people were Noah, the animals, the chosen animals, and his children. But nothing more about that. In the Book of Enoch, it was more detailed what happened. From what I learned in wherever this came from, but it's in my memory, and I'm sure it came from Mormon something, but not really taught, because some doctrines are really deep, what we call deep doctrines. It wasn't really deep. So the angels, in the time of Adam and Eve, the angels are coming down to heaven and were giving instructions to their children. They continued to give them instructions. And then, since the people became wicked, Noah was told to build an ark that saved his family. And after that, we don't know anything about the angels coming down from heaven anymore. So what happened? In the Book of Enoch, we will learn that this really happened. The angels did come down from heaven and gave instructions to God's children. We even learn the name of these angels. The leader was Semjaza, and the others, there were like 200 watchers. They were called watchers because their task was to watch over men, watch over the children of God. And there were leaders, the chiefs. How many were they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there were more than 10. I don't need to read all of them. And I'm going to tell you some of the things that they taught the children of God, the man. From chapter 8. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, the Egyptians, right? And all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose so much godlessness, and they committed fornication. They were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Semjaza, their leader, taught enchantments and root cuttings, amaros, to resolving of enchantments. That's like witchcraft, right? Barakijal taught astrology, Kokabel, the constellations, Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds, Arakel, the signs of the earth, Shamsiel, the signs of the sun, and Sariel, the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. This was after the time that, here it is, these angels lusted after, I'm just going to read this to you, on chapter 6, verse 2. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, referring to the beautiful women, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And when they begat children, giants were born. So there were giants on the earth. And these angels, the leader of these angels, some leaders, taught this stuff to the children of men. And that's why they were the ones that taught these men how to be ungodly. And I guess we now have a reason to blame others for the flood that happened, if we're going to take this literally, right? So that's what happened. Giants were born. Remember Goliath from the Old Testament, the one that David slain by hitting him with a stone from the sling. I think he was just the descendants of these giants. We don't know, in the Old Testament, it wasn't really mentioned how they existed, how they came to be, these giants. But now from the Book of Enoch, we now know there were giants. But what happened to these giants? On the last part of this story, chapter 16, they were actually, because of the cry of the people, the men, children of men, they were destroyed. And this is what it read. I'm just going to read this part. From the days of the slaughter and destruction and death of the giants, from the souls of whose flesh the spirits, having gone forth, shall destroy without incurring judgment. Thus shall they destroy until the day of the consummation, the great judgment, in which the age shall be consummated over the watchers, and the godless, yea, shall be wholly consummated. So that's the reason why these demons told Jesus that it's not even the judgment yet. It's not even our time yet. Are you going to judge us? That's the very reason. Because God told, because of God's instructions, that they will be consumed on the great judgment day, according to the Book of Enoch. And now, as to the watchers who have sent thee to intercede for them, who had been aforetime in heaven, say to them, You have been in heaven, but all the mysteries had not yet been revealed to you, and you knew worthless ones. And this in the hardness of your hearts you have made known to the women. And through these mysteries, women and men work much evil on earth. So everything that they taught the children of men, their wives, these watchers taught their wives, was according to the Book of Enoch, according to God in the Book of Enoch, they were worthless and they didn't know everything yet. So what are those? The making of bracelets, ornaments, antimony, shields, and knives and swords, and enchantments, root cuttings, like witchcraft, astrology, constellations, studying constellations, signs of the sun and the moon. God said they were worthless. And they didn't know anything, everything yet. Say to them, therefore, you have no peace. So they have not experienced peace since. And the giants, if we continue to read here, they did not have peace at all, and they were continue to exist here on earth by tormenting the men. They became demons after their death. So I haven't read the full thing, the full story before, so I checked with ChatGPT the summary of this story about the Watchers and their children, the giants. And I think this is what I'm going to share with you. First, I asked ChatGPT, where did the Book of Enoch come from? And here's what I got. I'll give you a screenshot. It's ChatGPT 4.0. And then it asked me if I would like to break down, the 5 main parts of the Book of Enoch. So I said yes. And this is what happened. Another screenshot that I will include here for you to read. You could also do this. Just ask ChatGPT, where did the Book of Enoch come from? And then say yes if it asks you to break down, if you want it to break down the 5 main parts of the Book of Enoch. So I was just told this is the full story of the Watchers and everything about the Book of Enoch, what you will expect to read from the Book of Enoch. So here goes. I think that's included. Book 2 and book 4 there. I'm going to share with you. So I'm going to share with you what's inside this Book of Enoch, because if I looked and there's no table of contents, so this is going to be like the table of contents of this. So on the first chapters, and I checked the full book, how it was categorized, and it's the same as how ChatGPT did it. It started with the Book of the Watchers, where the main story was about the angels called Watchers, who were supposed to watch over humans but fell from heaven because they lusted after human women. And this is where we also learn about the fallen angels, what we see in the movies. The major themes of that chapter is the divine judgment of the fallen angels, corruption of earth. Oh, and also they had children, the Nephilim, the giants, were very wicked. And Enoch's journey through heaven, visions of cosmic order. And this is where a lot of ideas about demons, fallen angels, and even how evil entered the world beyond Adam and Eve comes from. And the book 2 was about the Book of Parables, and where we could learn the messianic figure called the Son of Man that the demons knew. They recognized Jesus on that last part of the Matthew chapter 8. They knew that he is the Son of Man. They recognized him. Part 3 is the astronomical book, the heavenly luminaries. And part 4 is the book of dream visions. 5 is the epistle of Enoch. And we have a quick summary right here. That's it. Oh, that's right. Okay. I just checked some of the parts of what ChatGPT told me when I asked it to illustrate the full story of What's my first prompt here? This prompt was, where did the demons come from according to the Watchers book of the Book of Enoch? And I was I was told by ChatGPT where they came from. And then I asked for like an image where I could show you right now, or I'm showing you right now, to summarize all of it. And this is the image. It's not spelled correctly. Oh, wait. I think this came from some other language. That's why it's not spelled correctly. I'm not sure if I'm going to okay. I'll just share that with you. So this is the result. Save. The origin of demons from the Book of Enoch. From 1st Enoch verses 6 to 7, the Watchers descended from heaven. They're the sons of heaven. And then the next thing that happened is the birth of the Nephilims. The Nephilims are the giants with insatiable hunger and great strength. They were born because the angels lusted after the women on earth, and they married them. They became their wives, like what we mentioned earlier, right? And they taught them such things that we learn from now that are actually worthless according to God in the Book of Enoch. And then there's the divine judgment and the flood in first chapter. Well, I'm not sure if that's first Enoch, and in verse 10. And then, well, it was also mentioned here. And then the origin of demons were mentioned. The disembodied spirits of Nephilim, the giants, became demons, roaming and tormenting men. And then in the New Testament, Jesus confronts these demons, and they were cast out. Remember on Matthew chapter 8, like what we read, they were always cast out. And they recognized him as the Son of Man. If you want the full thing, I mean, what prompts I use to create this image. Well, ChatGPT created this image. Just let me know in the comments, okay? All right, that's it. Wait, I told you about the Book of Enoch, and I shared with you where the demons really came from, but I forgot what I know about the demons before. I told you in my introduction that I'm gonna compare that to what I know about the origin of the demons before. So I don't have my Book of Mormon here and the Pearl of Great Price. I'm gonna explain to you what I know about the origin of the demons before from a perspective from what I learned from Mormon doctrine. It's not, you can't read that from the Book of Mormon. You can't read that from the Doctrine and Covenants, one of the scriptures that Mormons believe to be scriptures. But you can read a part of it in the Pearl of Great Price. Where did the Pearl of Great Price came from? It's from Joseph Smith. I'm going to give you an example. Pearl. So what's in the Pearl of Great Price? It's the Book of Moses, the Book of Abraham, the controversial Book of Abraham, and Joseph Smith Matthew, where Joseph Smith added some stuff in the Book of Matthew, and Joseph Smith history. So we'll focus on the Book of Abraham because according to Joseph Smith, he translated it from a papyrus. And in this chapter, we'll read this. I'm going to give you a screenshot so you can read with me. A translation of some ancient records that have fallen into our hands from the catacombs of Egypt. The writings of Abraham while he was in Egypt, called the Book of Abraham, written by his own hand upon papyrus. So I'm going to show you where this really come from, what papyrus is talking about, because I don't see any facsimile here. Oh, here it is. Facsimile 1 and facsimile 3. Here's why this is controversial. Now I know that this isn't really the Book of Abraham because, well, what the leaders said, that Joseph only used these papyrus as like something that would inspire him to actually write what's in the Book of Abraham. But we know that's not the truth, because this facsimiles, if you check them, the Egyptologists check them and learn that these are actually about a man that died in Egypt before. You know about the Book of the Dead, right? I'm gonna have to go down to give you an example of the Book of the Dead. But I'm not gonna do that now. You can just search for that online. That these aren't really the gist of this is, I actually told you about this in my previous video. I think on the first long one that says something about being an ex-Mormon and reading the CES, my reaction to the CES letter. I explained that there. You can check that out. I think I'm just gonna put that in the description below as well, so you wouldn't have to look so far. And if you want to see that part where I mentioned the Book of Abraham, you can just click the description, in the description where I said in the timeline something about the Book of Abraham, okay? So Book of Abraham came from this, and what I learned from the Book of Abraham is, which is really from Joseph Smith himself, that this is a part of the Mormon theology, that there's a pre-existence before the world was. So in the pre-existence, there's a war in heaven where Jesus Christ presented how his plan is. Well, Heavenly Father presented his plan, and Jesus came, and he said he was going to be the one that will save his children. But it's still going to be their will. That's, well, the I don't know how to. I used to be really so versed with this because I taught the people this, the plan of salvation, but now it's hard to share that because I also lack the time. I still need to sleep. So the summary of that is, well, Jesus, he was chosen to be the one that will suffer for the children of men, so that we will also still have a chance to go back to Heavenly Father through Jesus Christ. And Satan also came, and what he wanted was for everyone to be saved, and that's like taking away the will or the agency of men to choose for themselves, like they're just in a path straight to heaven. They will go here on earth, and then we'll go to heaven. We don't have any other choice. But with Jesus, we are given a choice. So we have, that's why we have agency today in our lives. We can choose whether we will go to this way that will lead somewhere else, or this way, this straight and narrow path. It's our choice. And we learned so much in that choice. So that's what happened. And the third of the spirits in the pre-existence, they rebelled against the Father because they followed Satan. They wanted Satan's plan. They wanted his plan where they would be saved without any options, right? So these spirits that followed Satan, they did not have a chance to have flesh and bones and be born here on earth with flesh and bones. So they became the demons, the devils, tormenting men, or the ones that Jesus cast out in the stories in the book, in the New Testament, in the books according to Matthew, and in the following books as well. So that's where the demons came from in Mormon theology. And that's it. I forgot to share that with you earlier. That's what I know, but that's what I knew about the demons before learning about the Book of Enoch. And thanks again for listening. Maybe I think you're going to add this before I end my whole thoughts or notes. It's not going to be notes because I did not write anything. So that's what you will include before the end, where I said that I'll see you in the like chapter 9, something like that. Really tired. Thank you so much It's 3 p.m. Thank you so much for listening, for watching. And the next topic that we will talk about is Matthew chapter 9. See you then.